Okay. Itami top apis tiskit satos. We've happily arrived at the flower moon. Well, not really. I think we got one more night left of Matsi Kapisakitsam, the frog moon, and then we'll be in the full swing of the flower moon. First summer lunar cycle. It is the morning of May 13th, Sunday, 2018, and I'm out here like I am every Sunday morning to do a round of phenological survey. Came out last week with a student and did a little bit of video recording, but I never edited it together. So today's survey, I'll probably integrate some of that, what was happening last week with what's happening this week, and kind of bounce back and forth between the footage. Any case, a very different world than it was here a month ago. All is green. The cottonwoods are starting to leaf out. All the cottonwoods and poplar are in bloom. They're in flower. You can hear in the background lots of red-winged blackbirds, lots of yellow-headed blackbirds. I'm seeing some tree swallows moving around. Just lots of life. So much plant growth is coming up. Many things are leafing out, many things are in flower. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's goslings at the pond here already, but we'll find out. So let's take a look around. Several goose couples on the wet meadows this morning. You can see here the classic behavior of a Canada goose couple who have a incubating nest somewhere. The female's just taking a break from her nest, having some breakfast, and the male is, the gander is standing guard. This plant that grows on the banks here, the one with the whitish flower bud tips, is called lens-potted hoary cress, and this is a wild mustard species. We have several wild mustard species here at Spopikimi, and all of them are edibles, perfectly good edibles. And this one actually is best harvested really right now, before it blooms. After it blooms too, but you don't really want it once it's in seed and stuff. It gets kind of bitter, but right now the leaves taste very good, and it is the leaves you'd be going for. You could go for the flower buds too, but stay away from the stems. There is a butterfly out here called a cabbage white who lays eggs on the stems of wild mustard plants, and the larva of the cabbage white butterfly does not become disintegrated or killed within the human digestive system. This is where the term butterflies in your stomach comes from. For real though. So stay away from the stems, leaf only with wild mustards. So a couple of absences to note here at mid-pond. Last week there were several male mallards hanging out here mid-pond. Females are of course out incubating nests, and the mallard nesting strategy is not to nest anywhere near the water. So if you're walking along the water's edge here looking for duck nests, you're never going to find them. Likely places are like up here, believe it or not. You can find some on occasion at the higher points in the wet meadows, but a lot of times they pull way out of flood range. Any case, no males here today. Another absence, but not a change per se, is in this dogbane patch. Well, all of these dogbane patches along the shoreline here, I'm not seeing any new shoots of the dogbane yet, but those should be coming soon, just like everything else. Just checking out a few of the emerging plants here. I'm not sure what plant this is. It's an aster, no doubt, but I should know it after so many years of studying here. But I don't. We'll see what comes up out of it. This is a flicksweed. Flicksweed, which may be another mustard, even though the leaves don't look right. But it is flicksweed, I know. This one here, these little guys, they might end up being Canada goldenrod. I'm not sure. Not sure. It's a test of my skills here. I got 1 out of 3. That's not too good. Here we have humans hitting balls with sticks around a big lawn. That's different. They were doing a little bit of that last week. I didn't document it, but now they're out in full force. Meet Sopsky, the muskrats, making his way to his little den along the shore, no doubt. Can you hear the chorus frogs? Oh, they've quieted. There's a bird of prey. Probably a red-tailed hawk. Just above the forest here. I'll see if I can get a look at him. It's really hard to see through this viewfinder when I'm trying to look for birds of prey. Maybe you caught a glimpse, maybe you didn't, but there is a hawk up there. Frogs are singing again. And every time I say so, they stop. There are a few mallard drakes out here on the wide South Pool. So they're not as absent as I was making them out to be, although there's not as many as there were last week. No sign yet of any of the coots. They might have all moved out again this year. I am noticing that our wild currants are now in bloom. We have all 3 of the regional wild currant species here. Golden, red, and black. And a pretty nice patch of them here overlooking the wide South Pool. I've never been able to identify this tiny little ground species, this little flower. I think it's a kind of a mustard. It's just itty bitty. And I look at it every year right here by the bench overlooking the wide South Pool, but never come across a firm identity of who it is, a name to give him. The Saskatoon Okonoki are in bloom, and buckkeep chokecherry is not far behind, leafed out. It's got the flower buds. They'll be out soon. Oh, who was that? I think that was a redwing. Not sure yet. But so far I'm not seeing any redwing blackbird females yet. So got my eye peeled for them though. Yellowhead's the same way. Yeah, the other week when I was out this way, might have been 2 weeks ago, I startled a female duck up there, female mallard, so I'm gonna head up this way and see if maybe she's got a nest up there that I can find. But out here, you know, in this area and by the owlwood, lots and lots of golden bean in bright bloom, and this is what the flower moon is actually named after, this particular plant, although it speaks to the time in general as well, because everything comes into bloom. I think this was the area somewhere maybe in some of this buckbrush along this edge that the duck had flown out of. Now she might have just been scouting and not actually constructed a nest here, but I figure it's worth a check. See this skunk brush over here is got flower buds on it. Well, they're starting to bloom. They're very inconspicuous. Well, oh, that one's more in bloom. Check that out. Nice. Yeah, well, no ducks so far, but I'll keep on the lookout. Also, somewhere, I believe, up this way, there is a bull snake den that I haven't found yet. But end of last season, there were neonates coming out of by the riverbank here, so I know the den's not far. River looks a little high today. Might be we're having some melt off in the mountains. Might be a release upstream at Waterton or St. Mary's dams. I don't know. But the river is a little bit high and quite a bit of sediment in it. Right here is my first sighting of the year of penstemon, blue penstemon in bloom. I don't know any traditional uses of the plant, but in the language it's called escipoko, which I believe it means it kind of tastes hot, you know, like it's a spicy taste. I've never tried eating it, but I don't think it was a food, you know. Not to my knowledge, it wasn't a food in the Blackfoot tradition, so I don't know what you can use it for. No doubt something. It's our biggest patch of mullein in here, and they're starting to show the New Year's basil rosettes are starting to appear pretty late in the season for this, actually. We should have seen this at least a month ago. So I don't know what's up with that. Well, I guess I'll head back toward the forest main and the wet meadows, failing as I have to find any proposed duck nests or bull snake dens. They remain too elusive for me, but I'll continue looking. I was just reminded a moment ago that last week was the first sighting I've had of the morning cloak butterflies for this season. Another one just flew past me as I was walking, but I didn't have time to get it on film. It had some place it was going. But yeah, mourning cloaks are out. Here we have the bronze tiger beetle. I think a couple of weeks ago I showed the cowpath tiger beetle. The bronze is really cool. I mean, in its appearance, it's painted like desert camouflage, you know. And it likes these sandy trails just along the riverbank because it can see well out in front of it, and it can spot insects that it wants to prey on, and it flies up and pounces on them. Some people actually keep tiger beetle collections. You know, they keep pet tiger beetles. I guess it's a pretty big thing in Japan, but it's caught on in North America too. A lot of people do it just to have a predator insect, you know, in a little terrarium that they can then throw in other victim insects to be preyed on and watch it all go down. I just saw a couple of them mating here. There's a lot of them on the path as I'm walking. All those little things flying you see on the path there, those are bronze tiger beetles. You know, people don't look, well, they look, but they look from this vantage point. With the naked eye, it's hard to see that they're a really amazing, intricate looking beetle. You know, when you're just walking along and you see these things flying, you just think they're like a fly. Not that flies aren't really intricate in their own ways. Check this out. First fire rim tortoiseshell butterfly of the season. Hanging out here on the silty, sandy river path, just like the bronze tiger beetles. Looks like she's warming herself. Okay, so here we have the first female yellow-headed blackbird that I've sighted this season, sitting atop a cattail in this patch right here. None of the boys are with her. There's been a red-winged blackbird stopping by, and there's been some of the boys rattling from the distance in those patches further out in the pond. But I think this here we have one male that's kind of close. If he wants to come out and show himself, I'm not sure. Surprisingly, there's a red-winged blackbird right beside him and not being pushed away. So that one's probably just looking for food. But yeah, I think she wants this patch here. I think that's what she's saying. So unless she gets some agreement from the boys, well, I'm sure she will. I'm sure she will. Here on the wet meadows, you have asparagus growing wild. This is plants that were escaped or naturalized from some early farms that people put down here before, you know, settlers put down here before they realized that these rivers flood. But it's great that they're, you know, still around and established. 'Tis the season, almost too late. A lot of them are already branching out. Once they branch, and they're not just the shoot, it's too late. They get too fibrous, too woody. Yeah, I was just noticing out here at this goose nest island, there are a couple of what look like maybe shoveler ducks. I don't know, I'm expecting to see wood ducks show up here anytime now. These guys are so tucked, I'm not sure, but I think they're shovelers. Up in the air above, there's been a belted kingfisher, kind of in a, I believe a courtship display. He's just flying high and doing his song. You might be able to hear him. He's getting distant now. Just walking along the outskirts of the forest main here. Lots of activity from robins, tree swallows. Not seeing the starlings, but they're in their nests. And last week, the tree swallows were all, I think, in their mating. There was a lot of chasing one another around and stuff like this. This week they're not doing so much of that, so they've probably got already nests that they're either depositing eggs in or maybe even sitting in. Or sitting on. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. Well, not a little bit. I'm disappointed that the coots decided that this place wasn't good enough again. I miss having the coots nest in here. It's been a while. Leave you with this final scene of the turtles, the north end of the pond, next to the dock, for family viewing purposes. That's Spoopy Gimme today.